Hi, it's Nick with SprinterStore.com, and today we're starting the first big install piece on our 2019 two-wheel drive van. So today we're doing a Tec Vanlife rear ladder and tire carrier install. Pretty simple process, but there is a little bit of drilling, so be ready, it'll be fun. So we've got our ladder and tire carrier here, and it comes with a small bit of hardware. So first we have these pieces over here, which are meant for mounting the tire. This goes through, that holds it in place. Then we use these to pinch the tire down. Then we've got 4 bolts with nuts and little mounting plates. These go through the hinges to hold the hinge side on. And then we have these 2 rubber spacers and 2 more nuts. These are 4 studs that mount right through here that actually bolt this panel into the door. You do have to poke 2 holes in your door, but fortunately it's not the first time this thing's had holes in the door, so we'll be okay. I've pre-marked an area with tape where my holes should be, so when we put it on and line it up, we'll just mark it with a Sharpie and go from there. So tools we're gonna be using today are 15mm wrench, which I have a gooseneck as they call them, a ratcheting and a long one, and then a 17mm wrench is very handy for holding the other bolts in place. I do have a 15 on the impact gun to speed things up. The other thing you're gonna need is an 11 30-seconds drill bit and a drill. This is just a little thing to dimple mark where our hole's gonna go. All right, so first things first, we're gonna open up the driver's side door. Pretty simple process. If you haven't opened the driver's side door of your van yet, try using your van. So what we need to do now is I need to hang this from the brackets there so I can mark exactly where my holes are gonna line up. So at this point, what I'm gonna do is pick this up, have a helper hold it for me while I get some bolts started. So with my lovely assistant, Carl here, we're gonna have Carl pick this up, and what he's gonna do is align it with the 4 holes here using the alignment holes there, and I'm gonna use the plates, bolts, and nuts to mount it in place loosely so we can mark where everything goes. So Carl lifts it up, I feed a couple of bolts through, like so, and I'll just start these by hand real quick. Now you want the bolts to come from the inside and the nuts will be on the outside, like so. There are 2 little plates as reinforcements. Even when doing this for alignment, you want to use the plates because they will help you get everything in the right position. So as you can see, it's just 2 bolts through, and I'll put a nut on the back side there. And I'm just putting these on finger tight to get everything aligned correctly. We'll be taking this right back off once we're ready to drill. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and go around to the door and Carl can let go. And what you see is you're basically seeing about where the door is going to sit with this thing closed. Tec Vanlife says to align this lower bar at the bottom of the license plate. Looks pretty flat to me, so I'm gonna check my alignment over here. I need to move that up just a touch, about like that. Double check my alignment again. We're looking good. So now just take our Sharpie. We're gonna mark where our holes are gonna be. When I do this, I typically just kind of circle them, and it should tell you pretty much where your holes need to go. Now, for those of you who are doing this at home, this does have a little bit of play. So if everything's not 100% perfect, don't panic, it'll still work. Now I'm gonna have Carl help me take this back off and we're gonna poke some holes. All right, now that we've got our holes marked out, I'm gonna close the door so that it's solid, so that when I'm drilling these holes, I have something to push against. This is just a center punch to mark my spots. Helps keep the drill bit straight. Now, you are drilling through 2 layers of sheet metal, so this will take a sharp drill bit and a little bit of effort. All right, there's number 1. Okay, now that our holes are drilled, I'm gonna go ahead and remove the tape because we don't wanna leave that behind the panel. And voila, 2 nice clean holes. We now have 2 rubber spacers, and these are gonna go on the bolts before we put the ladder rack on for the first time for the last time. Now these might require a little bit of effort as they're meant to be a very tight fit. I find threading them on works very well, and now the long and arduous process of threading on a rubber bushing. Now I'm gonna do this the easy way. And if you're impatient, like me, you can use a large object, in this case I'm using a socket, and gently tap them down. Just recommend holding this down while you do it. Just like that. So now all we do is open the door and bolt this thing back in. So I'm gonna have my lovely assistant Carl help hold the ladder rack again while we get it all in place. Now when aligning the ladder rack, I recommend putting these 2 holes in first, as there might be a little bit of a fit. My holes are pretty good. Now I'm going to start by putting my top 2 bolts in, as it'll allow the rest to kind of hang. And the reason you kind of want 2 people is I'm handing Carl the nuts so that he can get them started a little easier while I get the other plate set up. Now these plates are pretty self-explanatory. They really only go in one way. You'll note there, that one is like that. I'll hand Carl this. And on the top one, it is arched to fit around these frames. This is where your 17mm comes in handy. So I'm gonna hand Carl the impact gun to tighten up his side while I hold him in place with a 17mm wrench. Bottom. All right, now that that's all done, all we have to do is close the door, and we might need to push this a little bit to make sure everything goes in smoothly. So if there is any slight misalignment in your holes, problem solved. I drilled my holes specifically a little small, so I had to use a hammer to put them in because I couldn't find an 11/32. If that's the case, gentle tap and you're good to go. Now, the last step is we're gonna open the door pretty far. We're gonna come in here and you'll see that there are now 2 studs sticking out. We just have to put nuts on those. So, last step of the ladder rack part of the install is we've got 2 more of these Nylock 15 mils. Got a ratcheting wrench. I'm gonna stick my hand in here and I'm gonna carefully feed these on the backside. Well, I'm gonna drop one at least, and then I'm gonna try and feed them on the backside. Trust me, folks, it's a lot easier when you can look at what you're doing. There we go. I'm gonna use my fingers to start that one while I fish the other one out of the bottom. That's not it. So if you do happen to lose one of the nuts like I did, I recommend a little magnet on a stick. This one's just a brass rod with a magnet on it. Allows you to go nut and bolt fishing, as there's a lot of little pockets down in here where things can get lost. Aha! Nope, that's not it either. So, you can tell this van's been worked on before because there's other hardware in there. That's the second one of those I've found. There's the third. Oh, the joys of used vans. That's frustrating. Well, it lives there now. This is inside one of the welded frames of the door. Unfortunately, what I forgot and did not realize was that these nuts are non-magnetic. So we'll be replacing that piece of hardware. So after that brief interlude, I have located another nut. Unfortunately, that one is not magnetic, so it lives there now. This does happen occasionally with cars. If you're having a problem, please don't forget you can always call SprinterStore.com and we'll get something sent out to you if possible. So I've got a replacement nut. I'm going to feed that in here very carefully this time and not drop it. There we go. All right, now I'm just gonna use a ratchet and finish these up, and then we're gonna go to mount the tire. Just remember, kids, magnets are your friends, or they're not. Whoops. My mic keeps sticking to the van. All right, and now we're done. Last step of this, now that the ladder is nice and firmly mounted, I'm gonna fold down the tire stand. We're gonna install the tire carrier. So you get a long bolt with a square nut that actually fits in this channel back here. Just feed it around, drop it on in. It has a channel because people run different size tires. So you use this very large nut it comes with, and we're gonna get this to where it's just touching. Then we're gonna grab our tire and get it in the right spot before tightening it down. Now I know from having done enough of these that we're probably gonna be right about here because of the fact that we're a 33, but let's find out. So I'm gonna grab our spare tire from right here, like a glove. So once the tire is seated in place, you want this to be roughly in the middle. So I need to adjust it just slightly. About there should do. And at this point, we know where the center is. So now all we do is we take our rubber cone and our locking ring. Rubber cone is used to hold the tire in place, and the locking ring just goes right over the top, like so. And now, you are spare tired up. Tighten this down till good and tight, and then you can use a padlock to attach this to the tire or however you feel like locking your tire up. In our case, we'll deal with that later. Now, one of the advantages of the Tec Vanlife ladder system is you have a side step. So if you do want to get on the roof, but you still have a spare tire, you have a way. So, my name's Nick, this has been SprinterStore.com and our install of the Tec Vanlife spare tire carrier and full-size ladder. Now, where did I put that Red Bull? It's gotta be around here somewhere.